this colleague, and not a colleague, a friend, and out of state. And I've worked a lot with healthcare and consulting, and healthcare industry has definitely taken one of the largest hits when it comes to this resignation and exodus. They've taken the mass hit.
Yeah,
And,
it's been the hardest.
And healthcare was already at critical crisis when it comes to staffing. 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I started training organizations and telling them, like, this is where the workforce is heading when it comes to healthcare. By the year 2025, there's going to be such a shortage that there will be an increase of closures. And we start to see that a lot in those community-based hospitals, a lot of closures. Yep. And that's now, the pandemic just catapulted that. And so we are at severe critical crisis. And so I was, and a lot of these organizations with these healthcare industries, and a lot of them have community-based hospitals and smaller hospitals have stayed within their more rigid and appropriate traditional methods.
Yeah.
And they're legacy leaders there, and I was talking to Travis Johnson. He was on my podcast, forget succession planning. We screwed that up. We've screwed that up. Like, I don't even know. Like,
everybody's talking about what the next step is going to be, but nobody's coming up with solutions.
Yeah, we're in critical crisis for succession because our 52% of our successors have left, and so So sitting there and talking to this colleague or this friend, and it becomes, we have leaders. It's split. There's a split. So they've got these legacy leaders who are just conservative, and I'm saying conservative not in a political sense, conservative in the sense where it is just that rigid appropriateness. That's how we'll define
status
the
quo.
Conservative. Yeah, the status quo. This is the way we've always done it.
Right.
Split. And those individuals have been there the longest. Well, then you've got the other side of what we'll call the progressive, those individuals who, in this sense, not political, think outside the box,
forward-looking,
who are a little more forward-thinking, maybe haven't been with the organization as long. Mm-hmm. But yet, no change. Talent market is changing. Everything is changing. The evolution of the workforce is all changing.
Mm-hmm.
This group refuses to change.
Yeah.
And then that group becomes like bullies within the organization. Then it becomes almost like this gaslighting that it is like, this person over here on the more progressive side, they do this wrong, that wrong. I heard they got written up. I heard this and that. Why are you listening to them? I heard that, all. So then it just becomes all this bullshit.
Yeah.
But the leader knows, and this is in several instances, in scenarios, in cases, the leader sees the issue. The leader sees the issue, but refuses to step in and have that critical dialogue to say, this isn't going to happen. And when I was sitting down with my friend, and I was like, what would happen? What would happen if the leader said, we're not doing it like this anymore? It's not moving us forward. We will continue this strategy. This will be our strategy moving forward. So I've kind of laid it out for that. The fear became, because of these legacies over here, and this is the majority of fear, not just my friend. This is the majority of fear that comes back, and why people do not want to say something is because they think if this one leader or these group of leaders leave, they're going to have another exodus of all these employees that are going to leave with them. And I'm like, in what history and in what situation has that happened? Does that happen a lot? Because I would like to see the research and the data, or even if you have one leader that isn't willing to move and you give them a nice little send-off, like, thank you, you've done a lot for us, here's your severance, we're moving in a different direction if you're not wanting to align to what we're doing, because you're going to find out that they can't keep up. You're going to find out this group, a portion of them can't keep up. because it might identify that their skill level is not what it needs to be.
Right. Well, but therein lies their staunch resistance
that. But the
to
development
that.
comes in like, I don't have this particular skill. Well,
right.
If you're coming over into the strategy over here, we'll help you develop that. So,
right. And to be honest with you, that's where most strategy needs to start, right?
But in this sphere, that's the majority of why people won't make those decisions, and those leaders won't say anything because they think that one leader, those leaders will take everyone with them.
Yeah, there's a fear-based movement, right? Well, but the other part of that too is the leader sitting there going, okay, so if these people leave, I'm going to have to do this, right? So humans being path of least resistance, right? Do what's easy. What's gotten us here, right? Okay, cool. So we just keep doing what it is that got us here,
right? But
that's not. I mean, there's a whole book about it, right? So what got us here won't get us there. Yeah. But the mentality is that, okay, I know what a majority of the people that I'm having conversations with, right, are saying, I already know what it is that I'm good at. You don't have to tell me. I don't have to take an assessment. I don't have to read a report to know that, right? But there's a remembering of, oh yeah, I am good at that. Okay, cool. And that's what most people levitate towards is, oh, that's what I'm good at. They completely, totally deny, okay, these are the areas that I need to work on.
Right.
And those can be in extreme, right? Anything in extreme can be a negative for an organization. But that trust and belief, and I mean, really what you're seeing is you're seeing a leader place all of their trust, an extreme, right? In those people, to be able to do that. And they're not looking at the possibilities. They're just looking at what's there. They're not looking at the possibilities for the future. I've been there. I've experienced that, both, while in the trenches in HR and of course working with clients. And it really is a majority of that. Again, I mean, we're same ideals we're talking about, in the workplace, basically also rely, if you want to talk about being from an entrepreneurial perspective, you have to build trust, you have to build relationships, you have to build an environment basically where this person feels comfortable psychologically to be able to kind of be who they are and trust in their capabilities.
Yeah, you have to create the safety ground for this more conservative, rigid group over here. Like, listen, we understand you're not.
But the environment that they grew up in, right?
That's true,
the environment that was mentored for them in a business environment was not one to say, I'm sorry, I messed up. It was perfection.
It was, and that is a grace that we definitely need to get. And I think that happened in our work generation. It started to fade off with our work generation, but the generation before us that's in the retirement now or phasing into the retirement portion, that was the expectation. It's like perfection.
Well, yeah, but they also, I mean, granted, also to give them a little bit of grace from that perspective, it was the idea that they had to be the trailblazer. Right. And so, okay, so if this worked, then let's just keep doing that. Let's replicate that over and over and over again because that worked. And I know that this works. Right. And if I know that this works, then why recreate the wheel?
Right.
Right. I mean, there's a number of things that I know that I'm realizing, right? And one of those, of course, is lifelong learning is basically one of the biggest aspects and best aspects that a human being can kind of have with themselves, because stepping back and kind of going, okay, so what worked over here in this environment may not work over here in this environment. Right. And not realizing that as times change, that environment has changed. It has shifted from being the environment that we tried out that first round in and has now shifted into a new environment. And not trusting in ourselves to be able to say, okay, well, we did it once. We forged the path one time. We can forge it again.
We can do it again.
Yeah. But there's not I mean, even from a systems perspective, right? There isn't an ease of systems. I've heard a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm not a tech person. I'm not into, okay, but it's not so much about it being a tech person, not being a tech person per se. It's okay, am I going to spend the time to actually apply myself to learn how to be able to use, whatever it is, from that perspective.